Welcome to the ABOO 6 C's Book Challenge. This is a workshop for you if you are dying to write your book but not sure what's holding you back and whether it's actually the right time to do it. By the time you listen to this workshop, you should be clear about all of that. If we haven't met before, I'm Lucy McCARRAHER. I've written 13 books myself, so I know the pain and the benefits of writing books. I founded Rethink Press 10 years ago with my business partner Joe Gregory. I'm also the founder of the Business Book Awards. I'm the UK's most experienced book mentor, and I founded the ABOO Facebook group for women authors and aspiring authors. And I am on a mission to get more women to write and publish their business book. It all started with the Business Book Awards, which I founded in 2017 to celebrate the work of authors and publishers who produce fantastic books around the area of business. I got together a brilliant judging panel of 15 men and 15 women, and we set up a process that was really robust and clear for shortlisting and then choosing the winners of the books that we hoped would be entered into these first awards. And indeed they were. We did well. We got 150 entries and we ended up with 11 brilliant winners, fantastic books, great knowledgeable authors. And this is the lineup of the first Business Book Awards in 2018. The winner. So this is me with the winners of the category awards and the Business Book of the Year awards for the 2018 Business Book Awards. And I'm sure you'll notice something very obvious about this photo. As I say, they were all fantastic books and great authors, but they were all white men, which wasn't what I had intended to happen. So then I had to either just go ahead and not make an issue of it, or I could go on a mission and see what had happened. What was behind this? What had created this situation where only white men were considered by our very astute judging panel to have written the best books in this year. So I tracked back, and in 2017 we received 150 entries for the Business Book Awards, which was great for the first year. But of those entries, only 50 were from women authors, so only a third of the entries were written by women. And then I realised that less than a third of women's books were shortlisted, and obviously not one of them won a single award. I also looked at the list of titles that Rethink Press published, and to my shock and surprise, we had published nearly twice as many books by men as we had by women in the last year or so. So something was going on here and I needed to get to the bottom. So I did a lot of research. I looked at business itself and the role of women in business, and I found some horrifying statistics. For example, only 9% of venture capital goes to women-led businesses, and women-owned businesses win less than 5% of the massive corporate and public sector contracts that are allocated every year, which is ridiculous because women-led businesses are actually more successful and make more money. And certainly when businesses have more women directors, they are much more substantial than men-only owned businesses. When they are pitching to investors or other people, women are always asked many more negative questions than men, forcing them to justify themselves the whole time. And perhaps worst of all, when exactly the same pitch is delivered to a group of funders or whoever else, when it's delivered by a woman, it's considered less credible and less fundable than the exact same pitch delivered by a man. In publishing, It turns out that overall women's books in the same genres and the same type of book are priced lower than books written by men. Did you know that the majority of book reviewers are male, and they review far more books by men than women, so that it's much harder for women's books to get that kind of credibility that reviewers give? Successful women authors also win fewer literary prizes than men. And again, if you send out a manuscript to agents and publishers, the same manuscript, and you put a woman's name on it as the author, it gets far less interest from publishers and agents than if you put a man's name on it. So what is going on here? I also surveyed 50 women entrepreneur authors who had written their books, but I asked them in extensive interviews what had held them up, what they thought was working against other women writing their books, and what had been a problem for them in the writing and publishing process. And I put all this together in a book myself, because that's what I do. So I wrote a book of one's own, a manifesto for women to share their experience and make a difference. And at that point, I also launched the ABOO Facebook group to give women a place to come together and support each other as authors and as would-be authors. So I also made sure that when the business books ran for their second year, I spoke to the judges. I increased the judging panel so there were more equally gender split, but there were more judges on the panel, and I also made sure they were more diverse in other ways as well. And I spoke to them long and hard about unconscious bias and what had happened last year, and the fact that we had all male winners. And I'm very happy to say I have nothing to do with the judging myself, but I'm very happy to say that the judging panel seem to have taken this on board, because these are the photos of the winners of the second Business Book Awards in 2019, and I hope you can see that that's a distinctly more colourful and diverse group of winners with some absolutely fantastic books by women. So as things have progressed, this year in 2021, we got 275 entries into the Business Book Awards. So far more people generally are writing books, but more of the entries were from women. We had 48% of entries this year from women authors. The shortlist was 50-50 split between male and female authors, and in terms of the winners and highly commended of the categories, it was again 50-50 split between men and women. But I have to say, we have never had a female only winner of the main prize, Business Book of the Year. So I will be mentioning that to the judges this year as well. Although I will say that in 2019, we had our Business Book of the Year was written jointly by a man and a woman, but never yet a female only winner of the Business Book Awards. So all my research told me that it definitely seems that fewer women were writing their business book. So what is it? What is it that holds us back as women and makes us feel that writing our business book may not be the right thing to do, may be too difficult? So when I spoke to the 50 women who formed the original ABOO circle, their answers and their replies were remarkably consistent, and I managed to distill the 6 things that seemed to me to be holding women back or making it more difficult for them to write their business book as these 6 C's. So the first one is confidence. It's not that we don't have confidence in our abilities, because we know we're good at what we do. If we're experts in our field, if we've been doing what we do for some time, we know that we can do it and that we're good at it. But we're not so confident as men about putting ourselves out there, about saying, I am good at what I do. Here are my opinions. This is what I think. These are my beliefs. This is my process. So we lack that sort of confidence to some degree. Secondly, we lack credibility, as the issue with the pitches by women and men, or the manuscripts by women authors or men authors. We as women do lack credibility, and that's a worry to us. We think that we don't have the credibility to put our book out there in the market, telling people what we think, because we think our ideas and knowledge will lack that credibility. Thirdly, we are very much more fearful of criticism than men, and with perfectly good reason. Why wouldn't we? We are criticised more than men. We are trolled, we are taken down, we are in a much more vulnerable position. But that is what worries a lot of women about writing their book and thinking, I'm going to get criticised for this. It's a real worry to a lot of women. Fourthly, of course, it's still unfortunately true to say that women are generally the default carer in their own world, and that's partly caring at home. It may be children, it may be older relatives, it may be friends and partners and family, but also even in our business world we feel the need to care for those around us there, whether it's our colleagues, if it's people we employ, it's our clients, and we spend an awful lot of time caring for them. And it came up a time and time again in my research with the original ABOO circle, that writing a book felt like a selfish thing to do, because you weren't doing it as a caring thing. It was something that felt like it was very much for you and you alone. So a lot of women felt held back by the idea that their role as carer was somehow not compatible with writing a book that felt selfish to take the time and energy to create. Fifthly, and the cash thing is connected to the caring thing, because we often have less time to build our businesses, because we are balancing our caring responsibilities with our work responsibilities. We often have less cash, and women are worried about the idea of putting time, which of course is money, and indeed money, because it does cost money to get your book written and published, into this project, which again seems selfish. So that can be something that holds women back. And then finally, there's the club. What I mean by that is that somehow men feel very supported by each other, whether it's at work or out of work, whether it's through sport or going down to the pub. Men generally have kind of support networks. They have mentors. They feel part of things where other men will show them the way, will back them up. But that's much harder for women. It's a harder thing to achieve in work. We are often, the minority if we have actual jobs in other people's businesses, or if we are running our own businesses, we're running between our caring responsibilities perhaps, and all the other things that make up our lives, and we are not so good at creating those support networks and taking advantage of them. Networking itself can often be difficult. So women feel that they don't have that support to write their books, and that's why that's another reason why they don't feel confident about going ahead with it often. So if you've got the workbook, can I ask you to take a moment to score yourself on the 6 C's? So from 1 to 5, where 1 is low and it's good, you have plenty of confidence. And so if you're scoring yourself on confidence, it's about whether you lack confidence. So if you score yourself at 5, you really lack confidence, you feel that very strongly. If you only score yourself at 1, then you are pretty confident. On credibility, do you feel underrated? If not so much, then score yourself, in the low 1, 2, 3. If you feel very underrated and lacking credibility, then score yourself at 4 or 5. What about criticism? How much do you fear criticism, particularly in relation to your book? If you're not worried about criticism as a result of publishing your book, then you can circle number 1. If this is really something that worries you and you feel you will get criticised for the opinions you put in your book, the knowledge, the expertise, score yourself at the high end, up to 5. What about caring? How much does it impact on your life, and how much do you think it might be holding you back as a concept in terms of committing to writing your book? If it doesn't affect you very much, then you can score yourself low on 1 or 2. If it really is something that's bringing you away from writing your book, then score yourself high on that one. Then cash. How much do you worry about cash? How much do you worry in terms of your book, whether investing time and actual money into writing a book would be a worry to you? So if that's not a problem, then score yourself low. And if it is a problem, and this is something that really worries you and maybe holding you back from writing your book, then score yourself at the high end, up to 5. And then what about the club? Do you feel excluded? Do you feel unsupported? Do you not know where to go to get that support for writing your book? If, again, that's not a big issue to you, score yourself low, down at number 1 or 2. If it is a problem to you, then score yourself at the high end. So stop and do that. And then if you have scored overall above 15, between 15 and 30, which will be 30 will be the highest score you could get on these, then have a think and listen to what I've got to say for the rest of the workshop. If you score 50 between 1 and 15, then you are actually in a good place to write your book already. You're not too worried about any of those, and you can pick out any of the ones that were high and see if we can address those through the rest of the workshop. So one of the things I did when I was writing my book was to create some women archetypes. So these are not archetypes that you think, oh, I tick these boxes, this is me. These are archetypes that are more kind of states of mind, archetypal visitors who come to us and try and stop us doing the things that we want to do. So these 3 archetypes are the ones that kind of protect us in a business environment. They make us feel that we shouldn't be doing things. It's too unsafe to do things. And the first one is, of course, the worry about unconscious or indeed conscious bias. And I call this first one the twin, because I feel that we all have a phantom male twin, and we get disheartened because we know that we lack that credibility, that if we were a man, if we were doing the same things, we would just have a natural credibility and authority that we don't have as women. And sometimes the twin will come to us as a visitor and say, nah, you're not good enough, nobody's going to take you seriously. And we have to notice when that happens. That's the main point of these archetypes, is to identify them and make sure that we can stand back from them and not let them influence us. The second one I call the imposter. And of course, we all know about imposter syndrome. The fact is it's no more gendered than, I mean, women do not get imposter syndrome more than men, apparently, but we show it much more than men do. Men will present a confident exterior. They won't let people know they feel they've got imposter syndrome. Well, for us, sometimes when we see men being incredibly confident about what they're doing, and sometimes if you're in a group who are a mixed group of people and one of the things you're doing is writing books, sometimes women, a lot of women have told me that the male confidence that is exuded makes them feel even more uncertain about doing this. So the imposter comes along and says to us, who are you to write a book or do this big project or step out of your comfort zone? You know you're not good enough. And we have to be really strong with the imposter and tell her to go away. And one way of doing that is to look at what we've achieved, what we can do, what our experience and expertise is, what the results we get for our clients is. And that is a way to actually get rid of the imposter, because we have to tell her to go away and let us get on with what we need to do and take some big steps. And the third one in this group is, I call her the risk assessor. It is true that women have a different attitude to risk than men. We are more risk averse than men. And in most ways, that's very good. We're much more sensible than some men can be. But the risk assessor is on total prevention focus and on constant alert for any potential downsides to anything, and writing a book is something that really sets off the risk assessor's alarms. And she comes to us with her clipboard saying, okay, what could go wrong here? Could it be this? Could it be that? Could this be a problem? Could this go wrong for you? And again, we have to be very firm with the risk assessor and say, actually, no, the risk is not if I don't write my book. The risk is not if I do write my book, but is it if I don't write my book. What is the risk if I don't write my book? It could be that my name never gets out there. I never become that expert and authority that becoming an author brings. It could be that my business never quite grows to that next stage. It could be that my competitor writes their book and grabs all the limelight and I get pushed to the side. So the risk assessor, sometimes you have to turn her ideas on her head and tell her that the risks actually in not doing what she thinks is a worry. And then there are three other archetypes which come from a much more traditionally female place. So I've already talked about caring being one of the issues that can hold women back from writing their book. And I call this first archetype Big Sister, because it's like we are caring for everybody around us. We put them first. We're not comfortable if we are not making sure that everybody else has got what they need. We feel indispensable, responsible for everyone's well-being, not just at home, but also in business and at work. So we have to really be careful about being overtaken by Big Sister and feeling that we don't have the right to do things for ourselves. So when Big Sister comes to visit, we need to give her a nudge and say, no, I'm not everybody's big sister. Actually, I need to do things for me. And then there's Cinderella. Cinderella is about that, about the cash aspect. Often I think we can sometimes get into the place where we feel that we are stuck in a rut, maybe stuck at home with caring responsibilities that we can't pass on or get other people to help with. We've got maybe too little money for our businesses. We don't have the time to build our businesses, and it's really hard to get out there and network and make things happen. It feels like everybody's going to the ball except us. And we have to get out of that mindset too. We have to tell Cinderella that no, actually there is a fairy godmother out there. You can go to the ball. You've just got to push through that barrier of that mindset. And then finally, and this is this is perhaps the deepest, darkest archetype in a way. The angel comes from something that Virginia Woolf said in her book, A Room of One's Own, which was also about women not being able to write their books. And she talked about the angel of the house, which is actually the title of a very sentimental Victorian poem written by a man who praises his angel, presumably his wife, of his house, because she does everything for everybody else. She's always there supporting other people in the background, being wonderful and charming and feminine. And this is the archetype who visits us. Intellectually, we know that this is not our role anymore, that we've gone beyond this, that we are equal and as good as any man. And yet sometimes we get ambushed by the angel who says, why are you out there? You shouldn't be putting yourself forward like this. You're there to support other people. You have to make sure that everything's running smoothly. This is what women are for. And we really have to be very strong with the angel, because she ambushes us out of nowhere. We don't believe in her intellectually, but sometimes she comes to grab us when we're not expecting her. And Virginia Woolf said every woman writer has to kill their angel. So that may be a bit strong, but while you're writing your book, you really have to lock your angel away and not let her come and visit you, because she is a strangely powerful force. So with all this going on, why should you write your book? Well, let me tell you what happens to every single author I know, and particularly women who write their book with me and publish with Rethink Press. In the first place, you get incredible clarity and confidence just from writing your book. When you plan in detail a 30 to 40,000 word book about your business, about what you do, about your case studies, about your own story and how it fits in to your business journey, how it communicates with your clients, you get extraordinary clarity about your business and your process and what you do. You become very aware of what you could do better perhaps and differently, and it's an incredible confidence building process. When you've written that 30 to 40,000 words, you also have this amazing archive of content in your head. So every time that you give a pitch or talk to people, give a keynote speech, answer questions, create a workshop, everything is already there. You've written it, it's just there for repurposing, and it comes out of your mouth or goes on to a different format in a really easy way. So just simply planning and writing your book brings you enormous clarity and confidence, even if nobody else ever sees it, which is of course not what I'm suggesting. Secondly, there is nothing like a book to say this person is an expert, this person is an authority on their subject. So writing a book is the absolutely archetypal way of demonstrating your credibility, your knowledge, your expertise. And it also gives you an extraordinary spread of influence. The way a book is distributed internationally around the world, the way people talk about books, the way people pass on your book, refer your book to other people, buy your book, of course, and the books that you give away just spreads your influence in a way that you couldn't possibly do if you were trying to get across to and meet all these people who will find your book in their different ways. Thirdly, and this is really a big one for many people, your book is your undercover sales agent. I say undercover because your book is not an obvious and overt sales tool. It does not go out there and say, buy my services, look how good I am. Your book is subtle. It is a valuable piece of work, an artifact, if you like, in its own right. It has a value, it has a cover price. Many people will actually pay for your book, so it can never be salesy. You can't, in your book, you don't write about, you don't sell your services, you don't include testimonials from clients, but you talk about your process, about what you do with your clients, and you give case studies and show your reader exactly how you work on the ground, the actual outcomes that you have produced with your clients, whether they're other individuals or businesses, and you tell your story or elements of your story through your book so that your readers follow your learning journey and learn to know, like, and trust you. So getting your book out there is an incredible way of building your business and growing your expertise and getting higher priced clients, getting those ideal clients that you really want to come and work with you. And so that is an absolutely vital part of getting your book written and published. Fourthly, if you want to be more visible, if you want more speaking gigs, if you want to appear on other people's podcasts or blogs or industry events, having a book is the way to do it. It is your entree. You just have to send your book to, the relevant people, and you will be in there, because clearly if you've written a book, you are the expert in your field. You can give a great talk, you have knowledge, you have stories to tell. And also, the media go and look for their experts and pundits on Amazon. It's a brilliant search engine, but only for finding people who have actually written their books. You will notice, of course, that anyone who appears on the media or writes in the media is always headlined as expert on whatever, author of, and then book on relevant subject. So if you want to become more visible, then your book is the way to do it. And fifthly, there's something that I call book magic, because it's different for everybody and I can't predict what it will be for you, but I know it will happen. So every author, I think, who has published with Rethink Press has come back to us at some stage, and we've had a conversation that goes something like, you'll never guess what's happened. And then it might be all sorts of different things. It might be my book's won an award, or I've won an award, or my business has won an award because of my book. It might be that in one case it was my business has doubled, help, I'm not coping, what can I do? And it's sometimes my guru or somebody I really admire has actually got in touch with me because I sent them a copy of my book, or I've been invited onto an incredibly prestigious committee, I've got an extraordinary speaking gig. So book magic will happen, and when you write and publish your book, you will find, sometimes very quickly and sometimes a bit further along the line, that extraordinary magic starts to happen to you because you have taken that step and got your book out there. So if I give you my top tips for getting your book written, they would be that first, you need to have the right mindset when you start out, and that is all about being aware of the challenges that particularly we as women are going to face. And if you know what they're going to be, then you can face them, and you can face them down and get past them. But it's important to be aware that they will, it's an emotional process writing a book. It's hard work, of course, but there are ways to do it that make it less difficult and less challenging than if you're not aware of what these are. The most important thing that so many people make a mistake about is that they don't plan in detail before they start writing. They jump into the writing and think, oh, I know what I'm talking about, I'll just make some notes on a few chapter headings and then it will all flow. But it doesn't. It's really important to plan in detail, and I mean real detail, not just chapter headings, but everything that goes into every chapter before you start writing. So you've got a blueprint, and then you can never get writer's block. It's also important to realise that writing a book is a process. It's not just some big amorphous task that's filled with all these parts like planning and positioning and writing a first draft, writing a second draft, writing a third draft, getting beta readers, proofreading, going back and editing. It's not like that. Writing a book is a process that you can follow step by step, and if you do it in the right way and taking each part as a manageable chunk, you won't get overwhelmed by it, and you will finish it. It's the people who don't realize that this is a process that has to be taken in a certain way that tend to get overwhelmed, write a couple of chapters, find it all too much and too difficult, and give up. And finally, I would say don't go it alone. I think we often have this this vision of a writer writing in a lonely garret and getting in the flow and doing all this creative stuff on their own. But actually, that's another way to just not finish a book. You really need to work, I would say, work with experts, but also working with a group of others who are writing their book. Is the way to get it done. Have support and have accountability and have knowledge and expertise in this quite big task. So you are the expert in your field, but writing a book, it can be a whole other process. So it really makes sense to work with an expert who can guide you through the process. So ready to write your book? That's what I'm often asked. Is it time for me to write? Do I need to wait for longer? And actually, there's a very quick way of discovering whether you are ready to write your book. So if you've got the workbook, you will have the page where there are 14 questions, and in two parts. So they are, in case you haven't got the workbook, have you been doing what you do for 2 or more years? Yes or no? Do you and your business make a steady income? Yes or no? Have you had successful outcomes with clients? Yes or no? Do you have a clear process that you take your clients through? Yes or no? Do you tell your personal story to prospects or clients? Yes or no? Are you an expert in your field? Yes or no? And are you different to your competitors? Yes or no? So that was 7 questions. And if you got a yes for more than 4 of those, for 4 or more of those, then you definitely have the content for a good book. 7 more questions about whether you're ready to write your book. Do you want to grow your business? Yes or no? Do you want more visibility, like speaking or being in the media? Yes or no? Do you want more authority and credibility? Yes or no? Do you want to find clients more easily? Yes or no? Do you want to raise your prices? Yes or no? Do you want to sell yourself without selling? Yes or no? Do you want to find partnerships with others? Yes or no? So again, if you got 4 or more yeses to that second set of questions, you are absolutely ready to write your book, and it is the right time for you to do it. So basically, if you've got the workbook or you can remember those questions, if you scored 4 or more in each section, you are absolutely ready to write your book. And I can tell you that it won't be a book that you read that changes your life, although you may well have some books that you think have changed your life, but they will have nothing on the book that you write. That is the book that will change your life, your business, and everything else in the world. So there are 4 more women archetypes who are the ones that can help us write our book. And our superpowers as women lie with these archetypes. So obviously you've heard of conscious and subconscious, perhaps of thinking fast and thinking slow. Well, I characterize these two parts of our brain, of our mind, as Miss Moneypenny, who is our conscious brain, and I envisage her as sitting behind the front desk of your mind. She's your day-to-day manager, a critical thinker. She's your conscious thought processes. She deals with what's happening consciously. And because we're women, we're incredibly efficient. We have lots of things going on that our conscious mind deals with on a regular basis, and that's why I call her Miss Moneypenny. But also in our subconscious, we also have a massive archive of material and knowledge and connections and intelligence that we can harness as well. And I call this the librarian, our librarian. We all have one. I envisage my subconscious, what I think of as the back of my brain, as a huge dark room going kind of TARDIS-like, going on forever, with full of filing cabinets of information and computer servers and applications and connections and you know, just like the inside of the TARDIS. And if you connect with your librarian, your subconscious, you can make an awful lot of things happen, of ideas come together. And as women, we do this a lot anyway, because we harness that subconscious to help us get through all the complexity of what we're doing. And so writing a book does take a certain amount of time, where you're sitting at your keyboard, watching your words come up onto the screen as you actually write. But a lot of the work can be done while you're busy doing other things. So if you get Miss Moneypenny and the librarian together and get working on them, as I can help guide you to do, mentor you through doing, writing your book is going to be surprisingly, I will never say it's easy, but it will all come together in a really positive and wonderful way. And then I am obviously a book mentor, so I've kind of drawn a picture of me here in this one. But the mentor is an experienced guide who supports you through doing something like writing a book. But I may be an external mentor, but I believe that we all have our internal mentor, the part of us that actually knows what's right and what's wrong for us, who answers questions that we're not sure about, if we can get in touch with her. And so these three, working with Miss Moneypenny and the librarian, the mentor also helps us get our book written. So if you write your book, what happens is just extraordinary. The challenges, the problems of the 6 C's get turned on their head. So writing your book will bring you extraordinary confidence. It will make you far more confident than you've ever been before about putting yourself out there, and your book goes out there for you. It's much easier to promote your book than it is to promote yourself. So your book allows you not to be that sort of pushy, overbearing person who's always talking about how wonderful they are, because your book goes out there and does that for you. The book that I will mentor you through writing is the book that will go out and sell you. It's not your job to sell your book will sell you. So your book gives you far more confidence than you've ever had before. Interestingly, you are very unlikely to get criticised for your book. What happens is that your book goes out there, and because it makes you an authority, it does in fact deflect criticism. So all the worry about criticism and putting your ideas and thoughts and knowledge out there actually gets taken down by putting your book out. You're going to be criticised less, not more, for writing your book. In terms of caring, it is not selfish to write your book. Even if it feels like it, you have to explain to yourself that actually when you write your book, you're doing something for not just you, but for your business. So you are going to grow your business and you will get more income coming in. and you will be making your children, if you have them, your sons, and even more perhaps your daughters, you'll be providing a fantastic role model. You will be doing great things for the people you work with and for your clients. Your book will go out there and provide value for an awful lot of people beyond your market and your ideal clients. So you are doing a caring thing by writing your book. If you are keeping all your valuable information in your head and not putting it out there in an accessible form that people can read, that's not caring. As women, we're supposed to be caring, and that is one way of showing it. And then of course that also impacts on the cash situation, because you are going to grow your business and your client base from writing your book, and that will bring you in more cash. It will certainly give you more credibility. The book is a wonderful gender neutral way of being of showing you to be credible, and it's my belief that I want every woman to write their own book to build their own individual credibility, but I believe that every woman who writes a book and puts it out there adds to the credibility of women in general, which I think is an important and a wonderful thing. And finally, when you write your book, you join that wonderful club of authors. You join all sorts of other clubs as well. Your book is an entree when you go even just to a straightforward networking event and you give copies of your book to people. It kind of allows you in. It's just like, you know, you get incredible networking and support, and you just join a whole load of clubs when you get your book out there. So finally, I have one last archetype who I call the hero, and she is the one who gets over all those challenges, pushes back on all the negative archetypes, and achieves her goal, particularly her book. And then her book becomes her weapon and her shield in the campaign for influence. If you wanted to come on the ABOO mentoring and mastermind group, you would be working with a group of absolute heroes. They are the women who come into the ABOO mentoring and mastermind group are fantastic. They are incredible experts in their own fields. They go through all the ups and downs of writing a book that we all do. They're incredibly caring and warm and supportive to each other. It is a great networking place to be. So joining the ABOO M&M group is a place to find your heroism, and other heroes to support you and for you to support them. So the ABOO Mentoring and Mastermind Group is a women-only online mentoring program for planning, writing and publishing your book over 12 months. It's a 12-month subscription program, and then to enter the next Business Book Awards after you finish and get your book out and published. And you can see more about it at www.aboocircles.com. As I say, it's a 12-month subscription to an incredibly supportive mentoring group, and in there you get 12 recorded coaching videos to guide you in detail through positioning, planning, writing and publishing your book. This doesn't cover the cost of publishing, but it takes you through the positioning, planning and writing, and then I support you through whichever way of publishing, route to publishing you choose. There are 24 fortnightly live Zoom group calls. So every 2 weeks there's a live Zoom call. It's not compulsory. If that's not your thing, that's fine. But that's where the heart of the group is. And people say these Zoom calls are absolutely life-changing and affirming, and really get them through the writing process. If you're part of the main ABOO group, you'll have noticed that every Friday we have a lunchtime learning session from an expert woman on whatever they want to talk about, and we will prioritise you getting your lunchtime learning session whenever you want to. I also send you hard copies of A Book of One's Own, the ABOO planner, which you can see on the right, which really helps you get through the process, a poster of those archetypes and postcards of them too, and some other bits and pieces. So if you want to change your life, write your book. That is my my advice to you. You will be sharing your experience and you will be making a difference to so many people. So please do have a look at the ABOO mentoring and mastermind group and ask me any questions. You can message me on Facebook or LinkedIn. Join the main ABOO write your a book of one's own group on Facebook, and I look forward to working with you.